Hello, and welcome to the bonus features video for our Brightspace Assessment PD series. In this video, we're just going to be going through a whole bunch of little different tips and tricks that you can use in Brightspace to help your evaluation practice. The first thing we are going to look at is a little widget or navbar icon called Quickeval. Now, what Quickeval does is it lists everything that you need to assess things that students have submitted, either assignments, quizzes, or discussions, in one place. So you can organize by date or by name, however you want to sort it. So you can access the Quickeval tool two ways. You can either go to the nav bar on your homepage, your organization level homepage, which is what you first see when you log in, where it has the My Courses widget here. If you go to the nav bar, you can see Quickeval. You can access it here. Or the other place you can access it is also on this page. If you scroll down a bit, you see a widget called Quickeval. And in the widget, you can see up to 6 things that you need to evaluate, organized by date, starting with the earliest. So here you can see that Michael Scott needs to assess a quiz, a test here, another assignment, all of these things here, right? These are assignments, and the question marks are quizzes. So these are the things that he needs to assess. So if he clicks on one of them, it actually takes him right to that assessment page for that assessment. So it'll take him right here so that he can then assess. If you click on View All Activities here or the navbar icon, it's going to give you a complete list of all the things that you need to assess. And you can filter here. You can pick an activity name, you can pick a course to filter by, you can search for things, but however you choose to do it, you see all of the different things that you need to assess. It's a really handy tool where you can see all of the things that you're going to need to mark in all of your courses in one place. Note that in order for things to show up here in this widget, you need to have due dates set. So for assignments, you need to have a due date set. So if you don't have a due date set, then it's not going to show up in there. Assignments that are set to complete automatically on due date, when the due date passes, it will always display there. But if it's assigned with the completion type automatically on evaluation, so it's only set complete when it's evaluated, then that is not going to be displayed here. So you always want to have the completion type, if you set a completion type, to be automatically on that due date for it to show up. The next tool that we are going to look at is called the Assignment Submission tool. So what this tool is going to do, it's going to give you just a one-page kind of snapshot of what students have submitted what assignments, and if any of them were late. You'll notice if you go into the Assignments tool and you go to grade them, you'll see a list of all the students that have submitted things, but you won't see a list of students that haven't. So you almost have to work backwards to figure out what students haven't submitted assignments. This tool is going to help you do that in a much quicker way. So you'll see what I mean when I demo this tool here. So the first thing you're going to need to do is add it to your navbar. It might not be automatically added to your navbar. If it isn't, it looks like this: assignment submissions. We're just going to click on these 3 dots, go to edit this navbar. Then on that page, go to add link, find assignment submissions, and then add it to the navbar. Once you have, you can just click on it. And then what you're going to see here is on the left-hand side, a list of all the assignments in the course. And on the right-hand side, a list of all the students in the course. Automatically, they're all selected. So let's take a look at it, what happens when they're all selected. But you can select only one student if you want, or a couple students, depending on which one. So if you're doing this for like parent-teacher interviews, you might only want to select this one student so that all the other students' data isn't displayed. On the left-hand side, we're going to select whatever assignments, again, you'd like to be submitted as well. Let's select them all. So when you go to View Submissions, you're just going to get a handy one-page grid here with check marks or X's. A check mark means that assignment's been submitted, and an X means it hasn't. So that's just a quick way to say, well, oh, Kevin here has got all of these assignments to submit. So if you look at the assignment names up here, that's what corresponds with each of these numbers. And again, a green check mark means submitted, a red X means not submitted, and a green check mark with a red number means submitted, but so many days late. So for example here, Jim submitted this assignment, but it was 3 days late. So again, one-page synopsis of all of the students and what assignments have been handed in. Very handy tool. But sticking with that theme of students who haven't submitted assignments, if there was a particular assignment where you wanted to contact the students that haven't submitted assignments, there is a way to do that. So if you go into the assignments tool and you pick an assignment, you're going to see a list of all the students that have submitted the assignment, but you can't see a list of those who haven't. But what you can do is you can click on this email users without submissions. And what it'll do is it'll generate an email in the D2L internal email system. And in the BCC file or field, it's going to list all of the students that have not submitted. So you can just put need to submit whatever assignment, type the message saying, hey, you're receiving this message because you haven't submitted this assignment. Please get that in as soon as possible. Send it, and all those students will then get an email saying they need to submit that assignment. The next thing I want to talk about is just actually having due dates on assessments. It's really important because, first of all, it communicates to students when things need to be submitted. But as mentioned earlier, it's also a trigger to determine what shows up in your Quickeval widget so that you can see what things need to be assessed, right? Because it's going to show up after those due dates. So now, in order to assign due dates, remember that you just have to go into assignments. When either you create an assignment or assess an assignment, let's do this one. You can set a due date right within this creation screen. So right here, this is our due date. We can just click on that and change it to whatever we'd like. So that's where the due dates are set up. And again, a due date needs to be set in order for it to show up in that Quickeval widget. For quizzes, to set a due date, we go into the quizzes tool. Either when we're creating a new quiz or editing a quiz, we click on the down arrow and go to edit, go to restrictions. And then right within this screen, we can check has due date and then set our due date to whatever we need. And now that will show up in the Quickeval widget. When it comes to discussions, discussion submissions are listed when accessible discussion topics have a post or reply written by a learner. Another reason that setting due dates are important is because there is a student-facing widget that's like the Quickeval widget for teachers, but it's for students. And what this widget does is it lists all of the work that the students need to do. So things that have due dates coming up that they haven't submitted yet, and it's called work to do. Students can access this widget by going to their org level homepage or the homepage that they first see when they log in. Scrolling down a little bit, and we have this work to do widget. So it'll list anything that has a due date coming up that they haven't submitted yet. So for example, Dwight here needs to submit our first assignment, which is due on December 15th. So again, if he just clicks on that, it'll take him right to the place where he needs to submit that assignment. It's very, very useful. So make sure that if you are using Brightspace assessment submissions and quizzes and discussions, that students know about that. Next thing I want to talk about is reassessments. So in Growing Success, it talks a lot about most recent, most accurate assessments, or kind of looking at assessment as a growth over time. So a lot of teachers are starting to enable students to have reassessments. Now, sometimes there are some requirements for that, right? Certain things have to be done before they can reassess. And that's something that you can work out with as yourself or as your department. But let's say there is a situation where you've let a student reassess a certain learning goal, and you want to say, well, how can I include that in my grade book? So one way to do that is just to create another grade item for the reassessment and then exempt them from all the other marks for that learning goal. So for example, in this course that we've been looking at, this is our learning goal-based assessment demo course, we have all of our categories as the learning goals for our course, right? We have LS1, LS2, LS3, and LS4. So let's say LS1, we have a certain student that's reassessed it. So we want to manually assign a grade for that learning goal only. So if we go to enter grades, right, we can see that this grade is made up right now by these assessments. And let's say that Pam comes to us and says and does a reassessment, and now we want her reassessment mark to be reflected with this learning goal. So in order to do that, we go to Manage Grades, and we go to New Item, and we'll call this, it's going to be numeric, and we'll call this LS1 reassessment. And the grade category is going to be an LS1, and we're going to mark it out of, it doesn't matter so much because we're going to assign a manual percentage, but let's grade it out of 100 for a percentage. And then we'll go save and close. Now I'm using a points system here, so it's automatically going to weight based on points. If you're using a percentage system, it doesn't really matter because we're going to exempt all of the other things. It's going to be the only thing in there that counts. So it's going to count for the whole category no matter whether you're using percentage or points-based system. But you can see now we have this LS1 reassessment. So if we go back to the Enter Grades screen, any student that then has a reassessment, I'm just going to switch to spreadsheet view here because it's easier to enter marks in bulk. So any student that has given a reassessment, we can just say, well, Pam gave us a reassessment and she is now going to get 92 out of 100 on this learning goal. So we want to exempt everything else. So we'll enter that and click Save. And then to exempt her from the rest of those marks for that learning goal, we're just going to click on the down arrow here and go Bulk Edit Exemptions. So now in LS1 for Pam, we're going to exempt all of these except for the reassessment. And just like that now, you notice that Pam's grade in this learning goal is 92%. It's what we manually assigned it to be. And now that only affects that learning goal. Everything else and every other learning goal is still weighted the same. So that way, if you are doing reassessments with learning goals, you can quickly just add another grade item and then have that reassessment be the mark for that learning goal. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is special access to quizzes and assignments. So if quizzes or assignments are no longer available to students because they're past that availability date, yet you still want to give certain students access to it, but not others. Say there was a student that has a special circumstance or missed the day of the quiz, and you want to open that quiz back up, but not for everybody, but just for that particular student, you can do that. So in order to do that, let's show you what that looks like in quizzes. So if we selected this quiz here, we're going to go to Edit, and we're going to go to Restrictions. Now at the very bottom, we see special access. Now there's two types of access. We can allow selected users special access to this quiz or allow only users with special access to see this quiz. So depending on how it goes, if it's still within the availability time, yet you select allow only users with special access to this quiz, only the special access are going to see it. But if it's after the availability, nobody's going to be able to see it anyway. So we're going to allow selected users with special access or only users. It's going to do the same thing because they're the only ones who are going to see it anyway. So if it's after the date though, and you want certain users only to see the quiz, it's safer just to click this. So if we click on Add Users, we can see now we're going to have a availability date. So we're going to extend this availability date starting today till next week. So now whoever I select will be able to see it. So if I go and select those three people, only those three people now are going to show up in the list of special access down here, and it says what their special access is. So that's how you can grant special access to students to view things after that end date has been has passed and it's not available to them anymore. Assignment looks a little different. If you go into edit the assignment, go over to availability dates and conditions. This is where you put your start and end date. Right here, you're going to click on manage special access and you're going to see the same process here. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is how to use your question library feature in quizzes. Meaning if you create questions for certain quizzes, you can then add them to your question library and then import them into any other quiz that you have in any course. So if you go to your quiz tool, and up here it says manage quizzes, but right beside that it says question library. All right, if you click on that, right now we're going to see we don't have any questions in our question library to choose from. So you can just manually add questions here if you want. You can just add questions to your question library. So then they're not just on a particular quiz, they're available to you for all quizzes. So if you want to use them in the future, you can do that. Or you can actually add questions from quizzes you've already created in this course. So if I import and go browse existing questions, there is nothing found in the test quiz that I have. But if you go here, you can select your other quizzes. If we go to the office quiz, there's 5 items. So let's say we wanted to add those to our question library. We can just select them all and click import. And now these are all available to be able to use in other quizzes. You can copy a question library to another course from another course. If you go into import, export, copy components, and the course you want to copy into, and then select the course you want to copy from, click on select selected components. And then when you see the selected component screen, you'll notice there's an option for question library. If you click on the question library and go continue, you can just import the question library from any other course that you've had. So if you're teaching another section of the same course, you can import all those quiz questions you've had from a previous course into your course. Thanks for watching the bonus features video for our Brightspace Assessment PD course.